between asserting on one hand, which is good, and on the other, remaining highly hijacked by thought of work, thought of the result of work, I should say. Now, in Bhagavad Gita, you and I can see a wonderful understanding of human personality at different levels of inner growth. In one of the chapters, to be specific, in the 6th chapter, Sri Krishna uses a very appropriate metaphor. Imagine there is a horse and there is a person who is trying to mount the horse but fails. He is yet to learn how to get on a horse. And when he is in that condition, or it could be a lady too, no gender bias in spirituality. If a lady is unable to mount the horse, then she should first learn that part of the art, that skill. This is the analogy. Suppose she has mastered the skill of mounting the horse, sitting upon it in a stable way, then she can go riding the horse. There is a phase of learning to mount the horse. Then there is a phase where it is all about riding on the horse with all skill, maybe going fast, slowing down, going left, going right, going on an uneven surface. Riding on the horse also has its own nuances. But learning to mount the horse and then riding on the horse on different kinds of terrains are two phases of the whole art of horse riding. That being the analogy, Sri Krishna says, the vast number of human beings, you and I, are in the first phase, and here the horse is not a physical horse, it is a high degree of true perception, true evaluation. What is meant by true evaluation? Generally, the word is used in detachment. Why do we call true evaluation detachment? You see, in false evaluation, we take something which is not so important to be very, very important. People attach to money. Money has a place in life. But if somebody attaches too much importance to money, somebody attaches too much importance to husband or wife, somebody attaches too much importance to being famous, being well known, that is when spirituality calls it attachment. Then that would be a sign of immaturity, emotional immaturity. Love for spouse, love for children. If you love the nice house you have, no spirituality would object to it. But if you give undue importance to such an extent that you cannot apply your mind to many other possibilities in life because of this attachment, then you are immature. So those who are immature have to first learn to put everything in its proper place. There is a old wise expression, a place for everything and everything in its place. Alas, vast majority of humanity are not good at it. Even those who get gold medals in universities, win Oscars or Olympic gold medal and so on, they do not necessarily have emotional maturity, intellectual maturity. In simple terms, this phase, where I just now said it's about reaching higher maturity, in simple terms may be called arriving at a high degree of purity of mind. Purity of mind, in fact, that also implies economy of thinking. Greater purity and less noise, less number of thoughts, just the necessary quantity of thoughts. And those thoughts also, think of it, are noble. In management, you have a couple of expressions. Very foolish people deal with situations where the other side and their own side both lose. It is called lose-lose policy. Some people go for a little better, you lose, I win. Well, I win, but you lose. Or you win, I lose. And going straight to the crux of the matter, in this terminology, those who are very mature in some kind of contest, competition, some kind of difficult relationship, two brothers may be having a bit of a fight over something. Can they find a way where both sides win? You win, I also win. Many of you are familiar with this. That is called a win-win approach. So if you and I have that broad-mindedness, where we do not want to rise at the expense of A or B, nor do we want A and B to rise and B fall in a ditch. Rather, how in our life we always strive to do certain things whereby everybody is happy. That would be a purity of mind. Sri Krishna talks about purity of mind. Those who gain a high degree of purity of mind can then go for the next phase. In the analogy of riding a horse, we already said the second phase is having sat very stably on the horse, the rider goes around different terrains on the horse. Here, what would be the spiritual equivalent? What will correspond to that second phase? It is the life of higher contemplation. It is our journey towards illumination. I may be using some bombastic words. Let me explain. In the first phase, we actually were reducing our conflict, reducing the disturbances that desire, anger, and other emotions cause in us. In the second phase, having arrived at a high degree of inner contentment and yet not free of the basic fear of death, of what tomorrow may bring to us and so on, we have to rise above even that basic fear. First phase is more about moving from wrong living to right living. Our heart would know when we arrive at right living. We earn money with our sweat, with hard work, that is right living. Imagine we earn money by stealing from others. Imagine our way of living, our transactions bring tears to people. Many people are hurt, many people are ruined even. That would be wrong living. From wrong living, can we come as much as possible to right living. That is the first phase, mounting the horse. When you and I, with sincere effort, being open to learning from different quarters, arrive at a high degree of what we perceive as reasonably right living. May not be 100% right living, but there was a time when we were very lazy. Now we have lazy bouts of laziness here and there. There was a time when we used to tell 7 lies in a single day. Now we might be telling, under some difficult circumstances, a lie in a week or in a month. That too of a soft kind. You know. So you and I know, in speech, in eating, in sleep, in many transactions, you and I would know when we have arrived at a high degree of life of integrity, life of honesty, life of inner simplicity, life of self-control. There was a time, let us say, if it is the example of eating some delicious food, we begin thinking we'll take a piece and then eat over it. There was a time. And now let us say we take a little and as per our plan to stop there, we actually stop. Much easily also. So in number of ways, there is certainly what is called personality integration. There was a boy in North Carolina who actually fell into bad company and was into taking drugs. When he was in 9th grade, one day the police called the parents. Your son is at a park nearby. Do you know that? The parents said, oh, we don't know. He said he had to spend a few hours at the library at his school. No, he is not at any library. He is at a park, and even beyond the closing hours of the park, 4 or 5 boys are inside taking some drugs. The parents got alarmed. Somehow they saved the boy from being arrested or punished in some way. But then they started noticing that he was not studying properly, he was telling lies, he was actually running away from school to some other place after the school closed, such things. But let me complete the example. Let me complete the story. There's a good news. That boy surprisingly came across an Indian guru visiting USA. He came across a book of that guru and somehow took interest in it and read it with great interest, and then attended a couple of camps being conducted by that visiting spiritual teacher. Even as the parents watched, there was a dramatic change in the boy. And later on, the boy, all you may call it divine grace, the boy became so disciplined. Now, let me not go further on those examples. From being undisciplined to being fairly disciplined is not the final goal of spirituality. To be disciplined is actually what is expected of us. Then the real goal is, it is technically called liberation, or you may call it God consciousness, or you may call it a certain state of mind where there is no trace of selfishness, no fear, there is unconditional love, all these higher things. These higher things constitute what is represented in the analogy by riding on the horse everywhere. For that, what are we to do? Sri Krishna says in the Gita, we must come in contact with wise people. We must pick from them certain valuable insights. And receiving insights from wise people, and thank God, on this earth, at any time in human history, thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago, 100 years ago, and even now, on this earth, there are ladies and gentlemen who are walking on the earth who have extraordinary wisdom. We must meet such people, receive from them a certain insight. Finally, we have to work on it. Nobody will give it just like that. But we receive a push, we receive inspiration, we receive some amount of guidance. Then, having arrived at a high degree of purity of mind, purity of word, purity of behavior, we are poised. We are, in fact, actually ready to dwell more and more on those insights. On one hand, we study, on the other, we meditate. In the 6th chapter, from which I shared with you the analogy of mounting a horse and then riding on the horse, though I must hasten to add, Sri Krishna doesn't use the word horse as such, but there is a word, one who has climbed and one who is trying to climb. One who is trying to mount or trying to climb, and one who has climbed and seated. That expression is given. The word horse is given by us to make matters easier. Krishna says, you do not know what great, wonderful things are ahead of you. As you become pure-minded and you go further on the path in this journey, he employs certain analogies. You will have a mind which is like a flame without flicker. This is an illustration Lord Krishna uses in the Gita in that very 6th chapter. A flame in a windless spot burns brightly and the flame remains straight, vertical, without shaking, without flickering. Imagine you and I sometimes earning well, sometimes not doing well, sometimes getting profit, some other time getting loss. Sometimes we ourselves or our near and dear ones are, terribly unwell. Some other time, by and large, health of everyone in the family is okay. Life is full of ups and downs, right? For every one of us, if not at this present moment, at a later time. That's how Prince Siddhartha noticed that nobody could escape old age, nobody could escape disease, nobody under the sun could escape death. And the young prince with a young wife and a small child felt so alarmed, and he took cognizance of this matter and embarked on a very, very extraordinary journey. He studied, he meditated, he tried many things. And then Prince Siddhartha emerged as the Buddha. The word Buddha, more than anything else, means awakened. More than having miraculous powers, walking on water or flying in the air, that is never given much importance in true spirituality. If you are awakened, meaning if you have gained that alertness, where you don't again fall for something false, something which is a passing pleasure, then you are awakened. So, Sri Krishna says, like a flame without flicker, you will be steady. When something bad happens, there will be a pinch of sorrow. Do not over-idealize that higher state. And when something pleasant happens. Your grandson performs very well. You will smile and you will appreciate. Well done, my boy. Your granddaughter, you know, performs very well in academics. You will pat her and genuinely you will express happiness. So you will have pinches of happiness and sorrow, but on a deeper level, you remain very steady. Is it not what you and I want above all? More than some glitter and glamour? Imagine I am in a fabulous palatial house, but with my hand going to my head, in an air-conditioned room and with all amenities and facilities. I would rather be in a simple hut with a broad smile, genuine smile, chest up, and free of worries. Generally, we make the mistake of endlessly pursuing external glories. So, flame without a flicker represents an inner poise, not of that person who keeps his or her eyes closed. Perhaps that is over idealized at places. Please know that flame without flicker as representing a state of being which can jolly well engage in actions, in activities, meet people, and so on and so forth. Not necessarily, do not imagine, do not equate spirituality one to one with living in a cave or going to Himalayas. During a certain phase, everybody may go for a retreat, but whether you are in the Himalayas or on the plains, in a village or in a city, as you meet situations, if you have mature outlooks, you maintain certain inner poise with understanding, not making your mind indifferent. We can make our mind utterly insensitive to things. That is more going towards being a stone. Spirituality is not about turning us into a stone. The wisdom of Gita is about awakening us. We are very alert. We know here is a loss, there is a disease. We know, oh, I am so sick today, body wise. But what the body is going through is one thing. How I look at it, how I see it. Do I jump to a conclusion? Because my body is unwell, I am such a failure in life. Wait a minute. What you are doesn't have to be one-to-one connected with the body's condition, your financial condition, your name and fame in the town, etc. So there is a certain rising above these mundane matters. And Sri Krishna in that same sixth chapter also says, if one is in this state of mind, even grave calamities, heavy adversity cannot disturb him or her. Bhagavad Gita has many approaches and many languages. At a certain place, Sri Krishna would say, you and I could be in a state of darkness. The darkness here symbolizes insensitivity. Insensitivity to others, and what is worse, insensitivity to our own downfall. We are going down and down, and we say to people, we say to friends who may alarm, who may warn us, no, nothing has happened to me, I'm okay. No, but you are not even getting up at 9:30 a.m. You have become so lazy. Ah, don't worry about me. Keep calm. Some irresponsible answers. That is darkness. Call it C. Let us make a model C, B, and A. Then there is a state of consciousness where you and I are quite active. We are efficient. We are running around. We don't waste time. But even as we are dynamic, we are always driven by desire. It's for me, my family, and so on. If that is the condition, then that is dynamic action, but without great purity inside us. Call it B. And then there comes A. In A, one is quite active, there is no laziness except what the little body needs. Please know that even illumined people, some 4 hours or 5 hours, whatever, they also sleep very well. Zero laziness, zero inertia, zero sleep, etc. is not true. The body has its limitations. You and I, as we advance in spirituality, learn the skill of differentiating between biological and psychological needs of us. If somebody sleeps 9 hours, lies on the bed for 9 hours, quite possibly the body's need is 6 or 7 hours, and another 2 hours, the person is, a young person, young lady or young man. Why does she or he do that? Even as she opens her eyes, a certain worry, certain agitation, certain dissatisfaction, certain unwillingness to go meet some, maybe one's own family members, disturbs her. And she again pulls the blanket and tries to sleep for some more time. See, that is psychological. When you have likes and dislikes, when you don't wish to go to work, mind, psychological, and therefore you sleep more. So, biological, God created, nature created, like hunger and thirst. There are, at certain phases of life, different needs arise. No spirituality objects to it. But psychologically, you compare yourself with somebody, he gets up at 4 a.m., I'm also going to get up tomorrow at 4 a.m. Comparing, making spirituality also another competition, and that, where there is such competition, it cannot be spiritual. Spirituality is not about competing with others. It is about understanding, and through right understanding, the necessary change will take place. Necessary. I become hardworking not by comparing with somebody, but I see how meaningless it is to remain lazy, how meaningless it is to postpone things without reason and so on. So through right understanding, my negativities go away. So a state of being alert, being active, but being free from selfishness, call it A. Calling them tamas, rajas, and sattva. A whole chapter 14 is given in the Gita describing what happens to us in the state of darkness, C, state of brisk action, but with some impurities of attitude, B, C, B, and being active and dynamic without impurities, A. Sri Krishna urges everyone to strive towards rising from C to B, B to A, and so on. And in that chapter, towards the end, he talks about the transcendence, going above all these C, B, and A. And that is very mind-boggling. That is how in science, in physics, etc., you talk about, like take the case of a rocket. First it goes, orbits the Earth, then gains greater and greater speed. And then when it gathers a certain escape velocity, the rocket goes out of the gravitational pull, gravitational field, so to say, of the Earth. It goes into space. There is a concept called escape velocity. Likewise, the human spiritual potential is amazing. One should not think of only darkness, dynamism, and equanimity. One can go beyond these three too. Lord Krishna, even till the 18th chapter, talks about our uplift, how we may rise. He talks about right food. He talks about right way of acting or doing action. He talks about even spiritual practices that could be done in a mechanical way or in a very brisk and vigorous way, but not exactly with all purity. And then the best way of doing even spiritual activities, like praying. Some people may pray, not asking anything for themselves, but the enemy should die. That would be a terrible thing. Then some people pray for their getting richer or famous, etc. But some people may pray, everyone may be free of sorrow. May everyone have good health. May unnecessary fights around us, between people, between countries, between etc., may those fights come down. Let there be harmony everywhere. Some noble prayers also can be in us, right? So Sri Krishna's dealing with various topics, let me sum up now everything. I would call it a beautiful treatise on spiritual psychology. Ordinary psychology doesn't go into, topics like the realization of oneness everywhere, realization of how there is one truth, all of us are in that truth is in all of us, where one sees another in oneself and one sees oneself in the other. Such verses are found. I expressed it in simple English, but there are verses. Sri Krishna puts it in Sanskrit, or Veda Vyasa put it in Sanskrit. When you see yourself in all, when you see all in yourself, when you see all in me, Sri Krishna says, that means all in Krishna. And you see Krishna in all. So all in me, I am in all are in Krishna, Krishna is all. That's like, as the famous or popular analogy in Vedanta goes, waves in water. Water is in all the waves. All the waves are in water. What does it mean? Waves and water are one. When waves are made, in every bit of them, made of water only, then you can say this. All waves are in water. Water is in all waves. So there is one truth. Now, ordinary psychology doesn't go to that kind of mystical statements. So spirituality first straightens us up, brings order in our daily living, order in our thinking and reacting. We become, rather than being disorderly, we become orderly people. And then, having reached a certain level of orderliness, when life is pretty much, if not 100%, pretty much decent, then our effort should be to delve into or dwell upon those higher statements. In this life itself, we should try to cover these two phases. Starting here and now, may we try to live a more orderly life. Let us not live in conflict. Let us not live in compromise. Let us not, at least knowingly, do useless things. We must have a proper plan, proper action, little by little. Our energies normally go away trying to imitate somebody or fearing somebody. Our priorities go topsy-turvy. We must not worry so much about others' opinion about us. We must think in a religious language, if I may say, is God happy with the way I am living? rather than asking, is she happy, is he happy, etc. So, from disorderly living, can we come to an orderly living, and then contemplating upon those mystical statements which illumined people have said. They have said, what you see and you, the seer, are one. That is a mystical statement. There are many kinds of, or many such statements. There is no plurality at all. Sri Krishna says it. In the 13th chapter, he says, to begin with, in everyone, there is what is seen and the one that sees. And then he adds, the one that sees in all of us is I only. I am the seer in all of you. That becomes a bit hard to swallow. How is it that the seer in every one of us is God Himself? That is where you need some wise people to put it in a sensible manner. That is where you need a bit of hand-holding by some wise people. Because more than a book, it is a human touch. And good news for everyone is, in your life, when you are a little ready, a wise person comes from somewhere. When the flower blossoms, the bee comes, right? That is the example given by saints and sages. Friends, life is such a big mystery. We don't know where from we came. We don't know where we will go after the so-called death. But between birth and death, in this fascinating journey called life, there are so many things to know. But to know our own true nature, know what is called divine by those wise people, is the most fulfilling thing in life. Let me pause here, saying Bhagavad Gita throws light on different facets of human life and helps us rise on the scale of consciousness. Vertically, we rise in consciousness, which we will explain another time, in another context. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Time for you to ask some questions or make some comments.
Hari Om Swamiji, Subramaniam.
Hari Om Subramaniam.
Yeah. I was thinking, you talked about win-win situation. Is unconditional love key to that? If so, how do you avoid the danger of being a doormat?
So if the higher state is unconditional love, how to avoid being a doormat? So what is meant by doormat is people taking undue advantage of us. So when you have unconditional love and somebody comes and takes undue advantage of him, slap him with unconditional love. You are having unconditional love does not prevent you from being strict with the other person. From telling him on his face, don't do this anymore. So by being hard, being strict, by calling a spade, you will not lose your unconditional. On the contrary, sometimes love expresses itself in the form of being strict. Whereas in a tamasic state of mind, when we are confused about the teachings of the scriptures, we may become doormats, meaning we may allow people to do wrong things to us and we remain, confused. I don't know what to do with it and so on. In the higher state of consciousness, we actually realize that this fellow is doing something wrong. And with whatever means is available directly with us, or sometimes we may not have the means to, confront him. We have friends, we have people whom we can bring into the picture. But the person should be given a stern message. To give a stern message. If that person is a bit mature otherwise, then our language can be also a decent language. If the person is immature, nothing other than a stick makes sense to him, we will have to take a stick in our hand. If I cannot lift the stick, I will have to take. So Lord Ram sometimes would make Lakshman handle a case. He would send Bharat, he would send Shatrughan to go and handle the case. Like that, you and I also. Suppose you don't know how to get angry, keep a person with you always who is skilled in getting angry. And take his services. So doormat we become in being tamasic. In being sattvic, we become judiciously assertive. We become assertive in a well-planned, well-thought-over manner. Never overdoing anything. Don't use a brahmastra on a sparrow. There is a sparrow, you want to chase him away, brahmastra. No. To chase a sparrow, just a little sound is enough. The sparrow will go. Like that, you and I will have to deal with life situations by seeing what is appropriate. And we must resist. We must resist evil. We must hit back at times. But in our heart, there should be no hatred towards that person. Okay, second question. Did you want to add something, Subramanian?
No, Swamiji. Thank you very much.
Okay, someone else, I think.
Guruji, it's
Anjana, yeah.
Just with the same context what you mentioned, no, Guruji. Sometimes we understand that we need to speak up, we need to stand up for what we believe, but there is this good intention,
Yeah.
but sometimes, based on my personal experience, I'm saying, I sometimes lack courage, right? Because that is what is also needed. To speak up in a situation like that. There's no hatred, but there's pure intention. But sometimes, the courage doesn't come up. But that is the challenge. Sometimes I feel, that is what assails me at times.
Right. So what to do in such a situation, right? So number one, Anjana, a lot of us are in the same boat as you are. A lot of us have the same issue. We want to hit back, but we don't have the courage. On various grounds. Maybe the other party is better equipped than we are, or the other party is in relationship-wise, our own sister or brother, and what will people think if I hit my own brother, etc. So moral and other grounds. Whatever it is, this lack of courage is actually a facet of inadequate chitta shuddhi, inadequate purification of the mind. Therefore, use some practices. Suppose you do your asana and pranayama daily, go for a walk daily, you study some literature, have discussions, physically, breathing wise, and intellectually, a lot of cobwebs will be removed. Then courage will come to you, giving you a surprise. You will yourself be surprised. You can go from being hesitant or afraid to being, upfront and courageous. You don't have to thump on a table. You don't have to make a face. Sometimes, courage expresses itself as saying something in a very polite way. You tell somebody, I'm sorry to say what you have been doing is not right. Please think about it. And those words coming from you will give a shock to that person. That person may say, how dare she say this? Because you had never behaved that way before. But when he goes to a corner and thinks, he finds, but she said it so nicely. She even first complimented me. Suppose he's an elderly person, some uncle or aunt. First, auntie, you have done so much for me, but I want to tell you, what you are doing in this matter is not right. First, you praise her. You have done so much for me in life. So even your enemy gets disarmed there. But then some other person may be very thick-skinned. For them, we should not praise. You should straight away. Therefore, in the earlier answer also, I said we should find out what is the appropriate way. And is this the right time? If your heart says this is not the right time, I will hit back another time, then it's not lack of courage. It is rather a certain assessment. Because for everything, there is the right time to do. People say laugh, but is it okay to laugh at a cremation ground? Keep laughing, keep smiling, etc. At a cremation ground, we should not crack jokes, we should not smile. Just as at certain places and certain right time only we should do things, we should. So, but coming back, what you may actually do, I myself am doing that for your information. I find with all my Vedanta knowledge also, sometimes I cannot assert. Then I find the reason is I have not been doing yoga. I'm missing asana, pranayama, or daily walk. I was drinking many cups of tea or coffee. So after all, this system, body and mind, have to be, managed in a nice way, as per our position. You don't have to do what you sannyasis do, somebody in Himalayan slopes do. But in your life, try to identify these are the things which I have to stop doing. These are the things which, in my position, I may do, depending on your family position, your professional position. We are all positioned in certain places in life, right? What is appropriate? Then be true to your conscience. If you do what your conscience says after enough deliberation, enough thinking, then Chitta Shuddhi takes place. The very feeling, nowadays I live as per my inner voice. That feeling gives you courage. Whereas the other feeling, opposite feeling, why do I blame him? I myself am not living rightly. I am ill-treating my younger brother. So do I have a moral right to say to my older brother, don't ill-treat me? Like that, suppose in our mind, conflicting thoughts come, then we will not have the courage. We won't have the moral courage. We won't have any other form of courage. So we are weakened personalities because of wrong lifestyles. And if we adopt the right lifestyle, we become strong personalities. That is what is called Chitta Shuddhi. So let's go for Chitta Shuddhi, by those means which we know. We are not Sarvajna. We don't know all the ways of rising in consciousness, but we do know a few things, and we should try to go by them. Chitta Shuddhi gives you courage. And if you feel I am not courageous, as I began my answer, be sure many of us are with you in the same boat. It's very common. What we wish we cannot do. We wish to do many things, but we cannot do. Something holds us back. Okay, over to Jyoti.
Thank you, Guruji.
Welcome.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om.
On the same chain of thoughts, sometimes we keep quiet just to maintain peace.
Correct.
We don't. Right?
Correct. Yeah.
So, we're all in the same boat, Anjana. But so what does this solution sort of do?
So, did you ask a question?
Yes, that's
or
a
is
question.
it a comment?
To maintain peace, we keep quiet when a situation
Correct.
arises.
It can be a temporary strategy. But suppose we keep quiet for every occasion, then like the first questioner used the expression, we would be becoming a doormat. The other person thinks he or she never, hits back, never responds. Therefore, that cannot be a solution forever. But on couple of occasions, we just keep quiet. Then, if I don't have the courage, I should try to have somebody else say to this other person who is taking undue advantage of us. Or if I don't have the courage to stay, I should give a written note. Whatever is possible, but do something whereby the person gets the message. If not in a hit back mode, at least we can express, because of this behavior, I have been suffering. So we don't say, don't do this, etc. Don't do this anymore is one expression, right? But without using that expression, we just say, I want to let you know that I'm suffering a lot because of this behavior of yours. Just say that, because sometimes the other party doesn't know that we are suffering. We should let them know we are suffering. Sometimes that also will have an impact, because ultimately the same Krishna lives in that person also as in anybody else. Krishna is in everybody. So we must find out, we must use various options, horizontally and vertically. Vertically means stronger, stronger, and stronger, etc. Horizontally means this way, or this way. There are many ways.
Thank you.
Maybe one or two. Oh, there is. I'll just read out. Maybe you also can read. Okay, one of them expresses Namaskar. So nice to get your darshan after many months. Yes. Nice to see you, Rukmini. I see you on the screen also. Nice to see you. Then Dr. Sonpal says, in assertive communication, one can start with I feel, I think, and describe it. Then the second sentence, when you and describe it. The third sentence, I would like you to express it. Then end it with how do you feel about it? How do you think? Yeah, these are nice tips. Assertive communication. Yeah, we first say I feel rather than do's and don'ts. Yeah, so this I think is available to all of you also in the comments section. The standing up for one's rights while respecting the other person's rights. Yeah. So there is some in psychology, this assertive communication. Those tips may be followed by us. Okay. Anybody to ask the last question or have the last laugh?
Swamiji, this is Rukmini here in Tampa, Florida.
Yeah.
So I had actually a comment on this. I mean, this is from my own experience. As I have been doing my spiritual practices over the past few years. You coming to Tampa was actually the beginning of my journey. So many pranams and thank you to you. But one of the things that I have noticed is that as I offer, everything as I bring Bhagwan more and more into my daily life, like for example, offering everything I do as, as offering to Bhagwan, and whatever I get in terms of relationships, in terms of any, responsibilities I have or whatever as his prasad, automatically, it has happened over time that my environment, as you said, about Chitta Shuddhi, as my internal environment gets pure, my external environment starts reflecting that Chitta Shuddhi. So I find that all these negative influences, the fights, the quarrels, the resentments, they have started clearing up in my external environment. And that
Beautiful.
is truly a miracle of Bhagwan. Thank you, Swamiji.
Beautiful sharing, beautiful sharing. Yes. Sometimes as we have Chitta Shuddhi, the old problem reduces on its own. And you also included in your submission this offering to Bhagavan. That's also a powerful tool. Krishna says, Yat karoshi yadashnasi, Tat kurushva madarpanam. Offer to me all that you do. There is a shloka to that effect in the 9th chapter. Swami Chinmayananda used to joke, if you cannot do samarpanam, samarpanam means complete offering. If you cannot do samarpanam, it's okay. At least do some arpanam. Samarpanam, the complete Sanskrit word, but some arpanam, half English, half some. He was witty. Swami Chinmayananda was very witty. Prasad Garu wants to add a comment. Your mic should be on.
Yeah. I just want to share for my own understanding, and I reflect on the second chapter, the Karmanya Vadikaraste philosophy. A practical way of thinking about it is you have control only on the input, but no control on the output. So that's one in terms of in the engineering or physics world and day-to-day world, recognize that your effort is in your hands. So one is a matter of your hands, and the outcome is in like God's hands. So outcome is not an effort. Or another pithy phrase might be passionate in your effort, but dispassionate about the outcome.
Wow, that's very nice. That second part I didn't know. Okay, very nice. Yeah.
So that also is a useful way of remembering. So I try to come up with easy, simple phrases, particularly talking to younger people and sharing with them about the Gita. And if I may add one more thing, often talking about the essence of the Vedanta, I say joy is the fruit of awareness. So from our the Satchitananda, from Chit comes Ananda. So joy is the fruit of our awareness.
Yeah. Chit to Ananda, awareness to joy. Okay.
Yeah. So likewise, on the flip side, ego is the dark footprint of our ignorance. So just as awareness leads to joy, ignorance leads to ego. So like these days we talk about the carbon footprint as like a negative, like a residue carbon footprint. So the carbon footprint of our ignorance is ego. Ahankara, it comes from our avidya. So I just want to share that as I talk to the people that I share, and particularly the younger people. Very useful, and I enjoyed it very much.
Well said, well said. All right, we meet again after a couple of weeks. Namaste. God bless everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Hari Om.
Dhanyawada, Swamiji.
Dhanyawada.
Namaste. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇದು